So my name is Ian Flynn. I am Creative Director at RocketMill.
My name's Martyn Smith. I'm the head of copywriting at RocketMill, and I promise you that I'm nowhere near as creepy and as evil as that photograph would suggest. So we're here today to talk about storytelling in a society that won't sit still. As marketers, we're competing for the attention of an audience that's more restless and more distracted than ever before. And to succeed, we think we're going to need a lot more than just clever technology, a lot more than just stronger data. We're going to need better, more intelligent ways of telling stories. And we're going to need better stories too. Now, I recently read that the average person is exposed to between 5,000 and 10,000 advertising messages per day. They don't like it. None of us do. People don't trust advertising. They're overwhelmed by the quantity of advertising that's gushing towards them, and they are distinctly underwhelmed by its quality.
So quality is something that we feel hugely passionate about at RocketMill. Myself and Martyn, the creative team as well. We want to drive that quality back into what we do. It's not necessarily just a want anymore. It's a need. I think Sam highlighted it really well in the opening talk for RocketMill. 1 in 4 adults don't trust advertising anymore. They're actually switching us off entirely through the use of ad blockers on their devices. So there's a need now. There's a need for us to really drive that quality back into what we do.
Now, earlier on, you heard Sam talking about the battle that rages between brand marketing and performance marketing, or if you prefer, between the old and the new. We don't see it as a battle at all, actually. The old and the new coexist quite peacefully at RocketMill, don't we?
Yeah.
Most of the time. Right? And the reason for that is we're a people-first business. And as such, we agree on the important stuff like this. People need stories. Now, I must apologise for stating the obvious. You know this, and we know that you know this. Stories and storytelling are hardwired into what we are. They're an essential part of the human condition, and that's been true for thousands of years. We use stories to educate us. We use them to entertain us. But most importantly, we use stories to help us remember. Let me show you something. How's that for a contest? Pi versus the Prince of Denmark. Now, it's like this. Only 12 people in the world are capable of memorizing the mathematical constant pi to more than 20,000 digits. But countless actors have performed the role of Hamlet, which requires them to memorize a sequence of nearly 50,000 letters. So it turns out that Shakespeare's masterpiece is altogether more memorable than a big, boring string of numbers, which is a great win for my team.
Our team.
Our team, sorry. Anyway, I learnt this fact from a Netflix documentary called The Mind Explained. And it also taught me this, that the people who can remember pi to 20,000 digits can only do that by turning all of those numbers into words, all of those words into pictures, and all of those pictures into a story, because that's how our minds work. The more we embed information through storytelling, the more memorable it becomes.
So there's no denying that the world is changing. It always is changing, and it always will change. And that's obviously the same when it comes to our industry. The media landscape is more fragmented than ever. I think we can all agree that. So as creatives, as marketers, storytellers, if you will, how should we be telling stories within this changing environment? And not only that, people are changing too. So the title of our talk is saying that people can't sit still, and that is really a fact now. Attention spans are decreasing. People are just too busy telling their own stories, perhaps through something like Instagram, to listen to ours. So that's really the digital paradox, is we're able to target people with laser-like precision, but actually reaching them is harder than ever. The good thing for people like Martyn and myself is people will always need stories. It's hardwired into us. It's such an effective way to transfer knowledge between each other. And total performance marketing today, as we're kind of pitching it, promotes a new kind of storytelling, and it's underpinned by 3 principles. First principle is simplicity. So Dave, after the break, will be talking about this in a lot more detail. So we'll just say this. The best stories are born from strong ideas, and the strongest ideas tend to be the simplest. So a test that I always tend to do with this is, if I can tell my story to a 5-year-old and for them to understand, as well as, or you, then you're winning. It needs to be accessible to everybody. Number 2 is it needs to be audacious. So we've spoken about the amount of advertising that's kind of coming at us on a day-to-day basis. In order for you to really cut through, you have to be bold, you have to be brave. Otherwise, you just become part of that noise. You can't be shy if you want people to respond to what you're saying, and if they're going to return to what you're saying over time. And then there's fluidity. So Matt spoke about this in the last 2 talks ago. Fluid stories shape themselves to the channels that they run through. And what that kind of means is they're designed to be shared, which is a different thing now. It's no longer just you pitching to someone in a passive way. They're active. Your audience become part of the story.
All right, so here's an advertising story that we think does all of the things Ian's just been talking about. Nike had a problem. They needed to reconnect with the youth of the capital, and to do so, they started with a simple truth. Nothing beats a Londoner. Now, as you've probably already guessed, I am not a Londoner. In fact, I am from Swansea, so this is clearly an outsider's perspective. But I do think it's true. I think that's a perfect representation of a Londoner's spirit. They're bloody relentless. You've all met Sam, right? Londoners don't give up. It doesn't matter what you put in their way. If a Londoner wants to do something, they just do it. Let's show you a clip.
Well, I have to run to training, coach my own coach, carry my whole team, and I'm best mates. What with a roll V? No.
Huh? Morning.
Oh no! Ever play tennis in London?
That's easy. I only get 1 try to land it. Before getting caught by security. Yeah? Well, I gotta be my own security, cuz.
So, if this goes wrong, I'll break my leg!
What? Even when I win, I get a broken nose.
Well, if I stop swimming, I'll literally die!
I don't even have a whole back.
Your friends saying I'm trouble. I can't lie, I was raised on a struggle. And when it all goes off, I'll be there in a bubble right now. All I wanna do is bubble.
This is London.
If you wanted a prime example of storytelling for a society that won't sit still, boom. It was a massively successful campaign. It told authentic stories about real Londoners in their own language, in their own networks, and in their own neighbourhoods. And I'll show you what we mean. Okay, so phase 1, Nike hyped the campaign using influencers like Mo Farah to launch an exclusive Nike Londoner t-shirt on Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat. Phase 2, Nike cast over 250 kids to appear in their own videos that told the stories of how tough they have it as London athletes. Those films were then launched at 3 p.m. on a Friday, just as school was kicking out, just as the kids were getting on their phones, and just as half-term was about to begin. Oh yeah, and they were geo-targeted to their relevant neighbourhoods as well. So then social media went berserk as the kids, the influencers, their followers, and all the various London tribes started to banter with one another about which of them had the roughest and which of them had it the toughest. And just before all of that local rivalry got out of hand, Nike brought everybody together again in a video, an epic 3-minute video that they launched on YouTube that trended at #1 immediately and got all of London talking about their brand. And after that came a second wave of Instagram stories from influencers encouraging kids to swipe up and access free sporting events in the capital in their areas. After that, once the kids started posting their own videos, Nike gave them GIFs and stickers that made their posts a part of Nike's campaign. They actually thought of everything. You could even get a virtual Nike London t-shirt for your Xbox avatar, if that's what you're into. Like I said, we love that campaign. We think Nike absolutely smashed it. It's simple, it's bold, it's funny, it's got bags of charm. And as for fluidity, it's got fluidity by the bucketful. And that is what we call total performance storytelling. Ian.
So this is my favourite part of the presentation. It's the takeaway.
Boom.
You're welcome. Thought ages about that. Actually, there's 3 takeaways. It's a special. All right, so takeaway number 1. I hope we've kind of articulated this well enough within our story today, is to invest in your story. So there's lots of technology available. There's lots of data available. But simply put, if you don't have a story, no one will remember you. It's hardwired into us. So we have to have a story for us to really be remembered. Make sure what you're saying is relevant and is actually worth sharing if you want to get that level of response. Make it simple, make it brave. Second takeaway, and I'm going to get Martyn to deliver this one better. Go on.
Takeaway number 2, keep it bendy.
I love that. So what that means is it's really intertwined with total performance marketing, and I think hopefully the Nike case study you just see really articulates this. Your creative in particular needs to bend and flex to lots of different channels. It needs to use the functionalities and the behaviours that are accustomed to those channels to its full potential to get a maximum amount of impact and to broadcast it to the best of its ability. And then lastly, we need to facilitate the conversation. So long are the days now where you can just get one bit of creative, put it on one channel and hope for the best. Like, we have the ability to hear that conversation even in real time. We need to be reactive to people's reactions. So whether that be joining in the conversation directly or facilitating the conversation between each other, you need to try and extend that half-life as much as possible within your campaign, as opposed to just launching it and see what happens. So that, ladies and gentlemen, as we see it, is total performance storytelling, and is the totality of our performance today. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you.